Welcome to Love and Leadership, the podcast that helps you lead with both your head and your heart, plus a bit of humor. I'm Kristen Sharkey, a leadership coach and facilitator.
And I'm Mike Sharkey, a senior living and hospitality executive. We're a couple of leadership nerds who also happen to be a couple.
Join us each week as we share our unfiltered opinions, break down influential books, and interview inspiring guests.
Whether you're a seasoned executive or a rising star, we're here to help you level up your leadership game and amplify your impact.
Hello, and welcome back to Love and Leadership. I'm Kristen.
And I'm Mike.
Wow, that was not forced and fake at all.
Oh, so forced. I'm so tired. Oh my God. I wish someone had told us having a kid was hard. I know,
right? Did nobody told us?
No one mentioned that it was challenging.
There's sarcasm. Everybody told us this. But
well, I'm trying not to be sarcastic. Was that sarcastic?
I wish somebody had told us that having a kid was hard.
Let me look up the definition of sarcasm.
Oh my gosh. We're 2 seconds in and we're already looking up a definition.
Verbal irony. Yeah, I guess it was saying what lovely weather during a downpour. Okay, that tracks. Oh, gosh.
Many people told us that having a kid was hard.
Everyone told us.
Everyone.
They weren't like, don't do it. But they're like, yeah, say goodbye to your life and sleep. And they didn't tell us much about all of the joyful stuff.
Absolutely.
The only one person, Nicole Mashburn, who was our first guest on the podcast.
Or second guest, I think.
Like I was saying, our second guest. Jesus Christ. Okay.
Sorry, I love you.
She's got me into senior living. She's one of my mentors, and she has a great relationship with her kids. She has 2 boys and 2 girls, and they're like a little tribe. They like follow her around, and I think they'll probably like open some sort of empire together. I don't know. So everyone else was just like very negative about it, and Nicole was like realistic. But she was also like, yes.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of pertains to what we're about to talk about.
There is a lot of joy.
So much joy.
So much joy.
So much joy. Yeah. I mean, there's no buyer's regret. This dude is amazing. Like the first time we saw him smile was like, what just happened?
Magic.
It was like magic.
Yeah.
And then when I got the first laugh, I'm going to dine on that out. I'll dine out on that forever. I make him laugh a lot. Like,
you make him laugh a lot.
I can get some laughs out of him.
Yeah.
And he's goofy, I guess.
Yeah,
but
amazing.
It's magical. It's just like sonorous. It's the difference between a normal songbird and a warbler. And if you're like a bird person, you know what I'm talking about. Like some birds just have an extra, I don't know the science of it, resonating chamber that makes a sparrow song beautiful, but a warbler's is like an opera singer or something. It's just like a different level. And his laugh is like that. It's just got like an extra depth. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's very special.
Yeah, it's very sweet. Yeah.
No, he's very happy. He's a very happy baby.
Yeah.
Unless he's hungry or tired.
He's sleeping well now. So
why would you say that out loud?
Okay. Knock on wood.
Why would you? I don't think that's real wood, but okay, whatever.
This is real wood. This table is real wood. Yes.
All right.
Yes.
All right.
Excuse me.
I'll take your word for it.
But yes, we are tired nonetheless.
And we both had 3-hour solo naps today.
I know. And we're still tired.
I'm still ready for another one.
We've also there's been a lot of aging parent stuff going on. With my mom and stuff. Yeah. So I remember when I was not long ago being like, we're going to be on a bi-weekly schedule. And
I never thought that. I thought if we could do one a month, we'd be.
Now I'm kind of like, okay, if we're just going to do these when we can. It's still a priority, but we are in a crazy season of life, and that is what it is. But we're still committed to it, and I am excited we're doing a leadership book club.
LBC.
Yeah, it was hard to do, and the only reason we were able to do this is because we were doing a book that I've read so many times already. I could not read another book at this point.
It's actually a book that I have listened to pieces of with you. Yeah. I know a lot of the principles, but I had not actually like sat down and read it before. So I read it and did the notes, but
I've read it like 5 times.
So many
it's
times.
So good. It's and I'm not doing any. I'm probably doing some of it, but I don't know. It's the difference between happiness and not happiness.
Basically, yeah.
Life.
Yeah, it really phrases it really well. You know, a lot of the concepts in here are not like new, but it's done so well.
They're elucidated in such a clear way.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll talk about, so the two authors are Dr. Benjamin Hardy and Dan Sullivan. And Dan Sullivan is very interesting. He's like one of the original like entrepreneur coaches. I think he started like back in the 70s. He's an OG. And he's just seen tens of thousands of very successful people who don't think they're successful. And he started to look at these trends in these like entrepreneurs that he was coaching, many of whom were from the outside. Anyone would think they're very successful, but they did not. And he started to dig into the psychology of it. And then Dr. Hardy is more of an author and an academic. And I think Dan Sullivan has written dozens of books, but they're like novellas. They're like, 30 pages long or something. And so Dr. Hardy helped him get his kind of teachings and ideas into a more robust form.
Yep. We actually haven't said the name of this book.
Oh.
I realize. So we are, yes, the subject of this LVC is The Gap and the Gain, The High Achiever's Guide to Happiness, Confidence, and Success by, as you said, Dan Sullivan and Dr. Benjamin Hardy.
And I should note it's GAIN, G-A-I-N. For a while, I thought it was game. And I thought they were teaching me how to play the game of life until I actually got a little farther in the book. And I was, okay, no, The Gap and the Gain.
Gain with an N.
Gain.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yeah. So that's the book we're doing. We've referenced this book a lot in past episodes, but I think it's a really good one. And it's one it's not like just a leadership book. It really applies.
No, it's just life.
Anyone, wherever you are in life. So
yeah,
it's a good one to revisit.
And they've written a couple other books. A couple other books together. Who Not How in 2020, and a book that I love, 10X is Easier Than 2X in 2023. And I'm actively like trying to figure that out too. And that book is great. That book is like, I mean, we should just do that book too, but it's how to like break out of, I would almost say, institutional thinking. Do you want to be very successful, or you just want to be a little more successful than you are now? And they go into I would need to reread the book to do a podcast on it, but it's a great book about changing your thinking, changing how you approach work and your mission in life and all of that. And we see a lot of that now, like this old school idea, like hard work pays. Does it, or does your YouTube channel with like 10 million views pay? I'm not saying that I'm going to become a YouTube star. That ship has sailed. There's a way of reinventing yourself that's not just like getting promoted up the corporate ladder.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that's that book. But this book is not that book.
This book is The Gap and the Gain. And it's published in 2021. So
cool.
Quite recent. So yeah, let's dive in. So starting off with the introduction, which is a very meaty introduction, which really explains the whole concept of this. So it's called Why Most People Aren't Happy. So he starts off by talking about how the Declaration of Independence talks about the pursuit of happiness and how Americans have been unhappy ever since. And by saying that happiness is something that we're pursuing, the direct implication is that we don't have it now. It becomes something in the distant future. And
I think this is genius, by the way. Like, it blew my mind when you broke this down.
Yeah, well, really, like bringing it with the pursuit of happiness, like the phrase, if you're American, you have heard so many times in your life, right? Like, it's like, wait, that is a fundamentally flawed way to look at it.
Yeah.
So
it is a fundamentally flawed. It's like, why are you not happy right now?
Yep.
You're only happy when you get something else. And I'm going to reference I'm just going to jam it in here. Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan is, by most people's agreement, the GOAT of basketball and maybe the greatest athlete of the 20th century. Right? He really is. You can make an argument for different people. You can't not. There's maybe two other people that you could make an argument for along with him. But I think he's probably, anyway, I'm not like a sports historian, but for me, okay. And I read his trainer's book. I can't remember his name off the top of my head. It's an interesting book. And his trainer, who like was his secret weapon behind the scenes for like his whole career, kept him healthy, rehabbed him, you know, just never in the limelight. And he talked about there's 3 levels of psychology of like people who, you know, sports athletes successful. And then there's like kind of successful. I can't remember what he called it. The closer, clutch. I don't know. But the top level, like Michael, they're never satisfied. Mm-hmm. They're to the point where you win a championship and he's happy for like 15 minutes. And then
it's like on to the next.
On to the next. And I personally share some of that psychology.
Oh, yeah. Me, absolutely.
For sure. Like really high achievers, you're like, okay, I just won my 3rd championship. What's next?
What's next?
And, you know, and I bring up Michael because he has a series on Netflix. I can't remember what it's called.
We can find it and put it in the show notes.
The Last Dance.
The Last Dance. Okay.
A great show, but he doesn't really super seem happy, and he's a billionaire because everything was like, he took everything personally. He just drove himself and his team forward, and there's glory in that, and I respect that. But I don't know that that's the route to actually being happy.
Yeah.
You know, I'd like to pressure test that on having $1 billion, but, you know, like he doesn't come off as happy about anything. And he's, you know, even with golf, he was always looking to like beat everybody. It was always, everything is a competition. And that psychology that his trainer talked about was you're never satisfied.
Yeah.
So, like, when is enough? What are you really doing with your life? What makes you happy? And this book really digs into that psychology.
Yep.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. No, I think that's the perfect example for this. Yeah. What they say is when you're chasing happiness externally, it's because you're disconnected internally and you're trying to fill a gap. And high achievers are particularly prone to being in the gap because most people who are high achievers remain unhappy, and that unhappiness grows deeper with each external accomplishment.
Mm-hmm. You're trying to fill the gap.
Exactly.
And I think, I don't know if you can put the visuals in the show notes, but he never understood this until he actually used the picture.
Yeah,
graph.
I'll see if I can link to they probably have it on their site.
Yeah, I'm sure
or something. I'll see if I can link to the visual that explains it.
He uses the horizon as what is it called? Allegory. Is it an allegory? Sure. So seeking gain, right? You have a goal, right? And your goal is to get to the horizon. And you set out in the morning and you walk 25 miles and you never get closer to the horizon. And the difference being in the gap or being in the gain is if you're in the gap, all you can see is how far you have to go to the horizon. And if you're in the gain, you measure from where you started. And you say to yourself, wow, I've really accomplished a lot today. I just walked 25 miles toward my goal. And any normal person, that's like a lot to walk in a day. And you should probably feel pretty good about yourself for having done that. And that's being in the gain. And if you're always looking at the horizon, you will never, ever be happy.
Yeah. The horizon being your ideal.
Yeah.
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 That's how they frame it, is like you get in the gap when you're measuring yourself against your ideal instead of where you started.
Mm-hmm.
And they do have a good visual that shows that if you're comparing, you should use your ideal to visualize, but if you also are using for measurement, like looking at the gap between your ideal state and your achieved state, you're going to always be unhappy versus if you still use the ideal for your visualization, but then you're measuring yourself against where you started, that's when you're in the gain.
Yeah, that's the raison d'etre of this book is measuring yourself against where you started.
Yep. Yeah. And so, like, if you reserve happiness and success for your future and not your present, you'll never find it. But it's always this like, oh, when I get this, I'll be happy.
I feel personally attacked.
Right?
It's true. Like, I don't feel like I accomplished much today. I did have a kettlebell workout and I worked on the Meyer Square with my longsword for an hour and played with my son for a couple hours and took a 3-hour nap and watched 2 movies and ate good food. And somehow I'm still not like feeling like I got anything done. And now I'm recording a podcast episode.
Right. After our son goes to bed.
After our son goes to bed with my wife who put all this together. And is the driving force between now a 50-episode podcast. I don't know. When will I be satisfied? I don't know, man.
Yeah.
Well, so Dan talks about, I like narrative more than my wife, and I learned from it differently than she did. But he would talk about, like, so he does seminars for entrepreneurs, and to even be admitted to the seminar, you have to be making 200 plus K a year in your personal business, not just like a salary.
Yeah.
But like you've invented something that's making money to even go to his seminar. And he'll walk into a room full of like 50 people who 99% of the people on earth would look at and say, you're so successful. And the first thing he'll say is like, how many people in here feel successful? And no hands will go up.
Yeah.
These are people, who have started a business and they're making real money. Maybe they're on their fifth business. And like you put down here a guy named Edward that he knew who set a goal that he needed $5 million in net worth to feel safe. And then he got to 5, and then he felt like he needed 10 to really be safe, and so forth. And he never felt okay. And then he got to like $17 million, and he still didn't feel okay.
Yeah.
And he like took all the money out of investments and like stored it under his mattress or something.
Which is incredibly relevant to right now too, because like a lot of this was he was consuming all the media. They call it like gap media, which is around the economy, and which, oh my God, is this relevant to right now?
Yeah.
And he was convinced by it that the financial world was going to collapse. And he pulled all his money out of the market and missed out on tremendous upside in the long run because of that being in the gap.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Yeah. There's so many good quotes in here. Like, measuring yourself against an ideal is an endless race to nowhere. And
there's this sickness now, the social media sickness.
Oh, yeah.
The Instagram sickness.
Yeah. Which is, they definitely talk about in here. And they specify like the ideal can be a hope, expectation, or comparison. So it's not just necessarily of what you're visualizing. And comparison is key too. And I think they get into that a little more in this. It's funny. I did these notes a week ago. It feels like 3 months ago.
Oh, it's hard. Tim Grover, by the way, is Michael Jordan's trainer. I think his book is called Relentless. It's a good book.
Okay.
It's an interesting.
I'll find it and link to it.
Yeah, he's seen the psychology of all of these super, super high achieving athletes. And he watched Michael just like, he's relentless. He drove himself harder, like he drove everybody harder, and
Yeah.
Okay.
So yes.
$17 million, not enough to feel safe. Pulled it out of the market. I'm not an investment, but like the market overall, it just keeps going up.
Yeah.
12% something. Like there's dips, but
you have to be able to ride out.
We have to ride out
psychology of the dips, right? Which is a big deal.
Yeah.
But yeah, so this is where they get into the horizon thing you mentioned. So like ideals are like a horizon in the desert. No matter how many steps you take forward, the horizon continues to move out of reach. And this is actually a concept in psychology called hedonic adaptation, where it's basically the tendency of humans to quickly adapt to where they are and what they've got, which leads to never being satisfied and constantly seeking the next thing.
You mean I shouldn't buy any more swords? I might have bought some swords.
Yeah. Yes. But I think it's important to frame this as like, we're not taught how to be happy.
Oh my God, it's so true.
There's nothing in the way we're taught about how to be happy. And ideals are useful. Ideals are meant to provide direction, motivation, meaning. They kind of like, they show us what we want, right? But they're not supposed to be the measuring stick. And our society has just trained us to measure ourselves against our ideals, which are by definition unreachable. So
can't reach the horizon.
Yeah. And that leads to many things. It also leads to our consumer-driven culture, like the keeping up with the Joneses, right? Yeah. Like it's never enough. You always have to keep buying more to keep up and comparing yourself to others, especially with social media. So that's just a fundamental issue. And they also frame it, if you think of things in numbers, like another way to look at this. So if like your starting point is 1 and your goal is 30 and you only get to 22.
Yeah.
So if you're in the gap, you're just thinking about how you're 8 short from your goal versus if you're in the gain, you've moved up 21 spots.
Yeah.
And I feel this way with like my Peloton all the time, which I never get on as much as I want to right now. But when you're doing classes, they have a leaderboard that you can turn off. And I've actually tried turning it off more than not. But if I'm comparing myself to other people, I actually just get down on myself because maybe it makes me work harder in the moment, but then like I'm not feeling very satisfied by the end of the class versus like the fact that I'm doing any workout on it is a huge gain right now with everything that's going on in life. And they also have a thing where you can see like what your PR is for that length of class. And I can see like how that's moved forward and how many workouts I did versus 3 months ago. And if I look at it that way, it's a big gain versus it's really easy to get stuck in the comparison of what rank I am. And that is a path to dissatisfaction.
It really is. I don't know. Like for my first career, I was really honestly driven to be the best in the world. And in some ways I was, in some ways, like for a minute. So yeah, my first career I was driven to be a successful musician in the way that like Olympic athletes are driven to win a gold medal. And, you know, for a moment I would have been in the conversation for that. But I was miserable. I could not have been more miserable as a person.
Yeah, you know.
I was totally miserable enough that I gave up like all of that work to just move on.
Yeah. No. There you go.
And, you know, like Simone Biles, right? Like she had a moment, as are these Olympics or the past Olympics, which is kind of like, I'm just mentally not in it. You know, everybody's like so hard on her. All right. Like you have no idea like the amount of commitment and time.
Oh my God.
And heart and suffering and blood and pain and focus that someone like that has. But often they don't have happiness. So I don't know.
Yes.
Yeah. Like I'm not trying to brag about, but I was driven like that. You know, I practiced 10 hours a day, every day, 8 hours, 10 hours, besides rehearsals.
And you were miserable.
I was miserable. Drank a lot. Just hated life. Won auditions, but you know.
Yeah. At what cost?
Well, that you know, a lot.
A lot of cost.
The cost was a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. So they say that any experience can be turned into a gain by creating new lessons, insights, or standards for yourself. And they say in the book that when you're in the gap about an experience, it becomes somewhat of a trauma to you. Trauma is an experience you framed as a negative, which you avoid.
Yeah.
I mean, I think this is a little oversimplistic. This is actually, I'll get into this a little more later.
It's a bit reductive. It's a bit reductive.
And I think it doesn't really, when we're talking about processing like deeply traumatic experiences,
However,
it's as simple.
It's not, but I don't think it's as simple. There's a really good book. It's called, I read it when I was at the Hyatt. The Upside of Stress.
The Upside of Stress.
The Upside of Stress. And it's a fascinating book. And it is in no way discounting like the reality of PTSD, and they found like people who had very traumatic experiences, if they actually treated them with additional like stress hormones immediately afterwards, it did something to, and this is not the crux of the book, but it did something to like ameliorate the severity of the PTSD. Very fascinating book. Yeah.
Yeah. We need to do that.
We should do that book. Yeah. That book saved my life at one point. I was like
and we have a little bit of stress in our lives right now. So there's that.
Well, there's the whole side of growth comes from stress. And Frankie, you're probably not listening to this, but I have a friend who like has done a very deep dive into the different types of stress. And he talks about in training, right? Everybody's always trying to push their limits, but that's actually not what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to work within your limits. And as you do that, your limits expand. And if you're always on the edge of your limits, you're hurting yourself in a way that actually slows your progress. And he has biological indicators that he looks for when he knows when it's time to stop working out or doing something. And he does that, and he trains probably 5 times more than the normal person and gets 10 times the results. The Western way of working out is like, how much weight can I put on the bar? Right. And when I was deadlifting all the time, everybody's always chasing the pounds on the bar. And I did 90% of my work at 50% of my 1 rep maximum, which is not normal. But I did so much volume. I would move 20, 30,000 pounds of weight in half an hour. That's like farmer strong, right? Like they're just throwing bales of hay. And then when I went for 1 rep max, it was easy. But I wasn't always testing. I was working within limits, working within what my body actually wanted to do. And he calls it eustress and distress. And most of us are in distress states. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, he's a genius. He's invented a new martial art. Frank, I won't blow up your spot, but like his martial art beats the other martial arts because he comes at it from a scientific, physical perspective. And he's like reverse engineered everything, right? So, yes, different types of stress.
Yeah. Yeah. So they say this is a mindset change. So changing from everything in life happens for you instead of everything in life happens to you. But
I'm so bad at this. So bad at it.
It's all, yeah. We'll get into this. This is hard. It's a constant process. And like Dr. Hardy talks about how his family, he has a bunch of kids, I think.
He and his wife were trying to get pregnant for a while, and I think they wound up like adopting 3 kids or something like that. And then they got pregnant with twins.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
And all in like 18 months.
Oh my God. I mean, they reference the gap and the gain every day within their family. And he talks about like his kids will call him out when they catch him going into the gap.
He's got a really good, he talks about his son, right? And his son, I think they have to split a cookie between 2 of the kids. And the son has a meltdown and he's like, I wanted a whole cookie. And he uses this to elucidate the thinking. You have half a cookie more than you did a minute ago.
Right.
But all you can see is, or you think your sibling got the bigger piece, you're in the gap. Right? Instead of like, oh, wow, I have a cookie. I like cookie, and that's thinking, it's very profound.
Yeah. And you can be in the gap about other people too. So in that case, all you're seeing is what they aren't measuring up to against like where you wish they were. Like you see their flaws instead of seeing their gains or growth, which is so true. So that brings us into part 1. That was all the introduction, but get out of the gap. And the first chapter in this is chapter 1, embrace the freedom of wants, avoid the attachment of needs. So he gives an example of Dan Jansen, who's an Olympic speed skater, how he was in his final Olympics and he had finished 8th in his final strongest event. And he had won a remaining event, which was usually his weakest event. But he decided to just be in the gain and do this event as an expression of gratitude.
He wasn't just a speed skater. He was supposed to win.
Yes.
Like he was always, but somehow when he got to the...
Yeah, he ended up in 8th.
Yeah, he was always supposed to win. And he's one of those people that like never won the title kind of thing.
Yeah. But what he realized, so like when he went into that event and he was in the gain and did this event as an expression of gratitude, it didn't actually matter to him whether he won or lost. But of course, he broke a world record in the process of that. Happiness is where you start, not where you finish. And they talk about the broaden and build theory, which is from Dr. Barbara Fredrickson. So, which is that positive emotions broaden your options of thinking and acting. And with those broadened minds, you can build new resources to use now or in the future.
So, I'm sorry, Dan Jansen broke a 10-year Olympic jinx. And when he finally won his final race.
And it was supposed to be his weakest.
Yeah.
His weakest event. Yeah. There you go. But yeah, like people in high-stakes situations, they have found make the best choices when they're in a state of gratitude because it helps them more clearly see the best option.
I had this problem when I was auditioning. I played really good so there's generally orchestra audition has 3 or more rounds, but generally it's 3 rounds. First round is prelims, generally behind a screen so that the committee can't see you.
Right.
They can't think that you're a woman and they don't want to hire one. They have some level of anonymity where they can't hire their friend that easily, And then the second round will often be behind a screen as well. And then the finals will be like 1, 2, or 3 people at most. That's when they'll bring the conductor in. They won't bring the conductor to the first 2 rounds. And there can be anywhere from 100. When I went to Chicago, there were 300 people.
Mm-hmm.
I played great in the first round and great in the second round. I played better in the second round than I did in the first round. And then when I get to the third round, and it's just like me and one or two other guys, and the screen comes down and I've almost got a job that I was no longer about the music or about my practice. It was about the result. And I was like, there's the horizon. It's right there. I can get it. And I stopped focusing. And that's what martial artists will tell you. You don't think about winning. You think about the process, your tools, what to do immediately next. You trust in your training. You let your body do it, and your mind just, and I didn't do that. And I choked a lot of auditions that I could have won. If I had,
Yeah.
I was 20,
Well, I mean, yes. Yeah. Yeah. When you're in the gap, you have an unhealthy attachment to something external. You need something outside of yourself in order to be whole and happy.
Yeah. The first couple was just like, I can't believe I'm here. I made it at the second round, the Pittsburgh Symphony. It's amazing. That was like, that's gain thinking. Like, I'm so much farther than I was an hour ago.
I can't believe I'm here. I mean, it made it. Yeah.
It's so great. Like, my stuff is working. It's validating. And then the next round, I was like, I've almost got it. I'm right there. It's like Gollum grabbing for the ring as he goes over into the... Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, turned it out. Anyway.
Needs are unresolved internal pain, not something you can solve externally.
Happiness can't come from something outside of yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, it's huge. And they give like a few things to ask yourself, like, what do you feel you need in order to be happy? Who or what do you measure yourself against? And when in your life did you make something or someone into a need and create an unhealthy gap? Which is like all the time. So many times. And then they give an example of Trevor Lawrence, who in 2021 was the projected number 1 NFL draft pick. And he was doing all these interviews and he said that he didn't need football to feel worthy as a person. And he said there's more to life than football. And of course, like, it broke sports media because the notion that you need to be obsessed and desperately need something in order to be successful, like, you have to be unhealthy in order to be great. And he was like, no, I know that there is more to life in football, that I'm worthy regardless of whether I'm successful in this sport or not, which is crazy also at that age.
He's currently the quarterback for the Jacksonville Jaguars, and I think he's doing very well.
Yeah, well, there you go. Yeah.
Sorry, he might not be doing that well. I'm looking at their record right now. I don't know if that's him or the Jaguars. I don't know. He's still in the NFL. Like, you know.
Yeah, whatever. Also, it almost doesn't matter.
It almost doesn't matter, but it does matter a little bit. Like, I think there's an argument that you have to, like you were saying, you have to be like a Michael Jordan. And maybe you do, to be that level better than everybody else. But
also, if you want to be happy.
Well, that's the thing. You look at them when they're 50 and 60, and it's like, your glory days are gone.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah.
How's your psychology?
I love that they said this. You can have both an intense commitment to succeed and a healthy detachment from what you're doing, which I so deeply struggle with. The detachment part.
I don't know if we're the right people to be doing this book.
Well, we need this book.
I'm trying so hard to the gap and the gain is my horizon that I keep trying to .
So we decided to do this for an LBC when we're only doing so many LBCs right now because they do take a lot more prep, but we were like, we need this book. But they talk about these two types of passion. So you have obsessive passion, which is like highly impulsive, fueled by suppressed emotions and unresolved internal conflict. That you have a hard time being in the moment because you're like so fixated on your obsession. I think this is what we have typically seen as like the path to success, right? Is an obsessive passion. And then you have harmonious passion, in which you're intrinsically motivated and healthy. So like you're purposeful, goal-directed, not need-driven. I like that they give a way to tell between this like harmonious and obsessive passion. A passion is harmonious if it enhances the other key aspects of your life and it makes you better as a person. And it's like more likely to put you in a flow state.
So it's interesting. Frankie talks about that with movement. Everybody's obsessed with one aspect of movement, which is strength, especially in the West. But there's 7. There's flexibility, mobility, stability, strength, power, endurance. I don't know if that's all of them. But Frankie teaches that something that is good for you, even if it's like on the strength side, it's going to be good for all of those things. And if it's not, it's actually not a net positive. So he has like a biofeedback method that he uses, that I use to validate a movement that I'm doing. If a kettlebell swing is actually good for me, it's going to increase my flexibility and stability at the same time. It's the exact same concept. Yeah.
Yeah, that is.
And that's why he says if you specialize, you're going to get hurt. And that you may excel in that specialization, for instance, football, but you may be hurt in other ways, or you may be hurt physically as well.
Yeah.
It's fascinating.
Interesting.
Yeah. And as I've aged, my idea of what a PR is has changed. But when I was doing it in my 30s, I would test weights, movements, ranges of motion, everything I could test to see what was the most positive. I went 4 years and I didn't fail to set some type of PR every single workout, every single time. There's a way to perpetual progress, but it's not in specificity. It's not in chasing your idea of a horizon. It's in becoming a more actualized, holistic person.
Yeah. I also like that they specify like being in the game means operating out of want, not out of need. Because needing something creates scarcity, while wanting creates like abundance, an abundance of resources as a result of the creativity and innovation that comes from wanting.
Yeah, this is I'm still processing that because in the later part of my life, I've wanted to be more humble and I don't need fancy things, and except that I like fancy things.
Except people also gotten bougier.
I think I was always bougie, and I just wasn't honest with myself.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I have an apartment, I have good food, I'm okay. But I didn't feel that way. I wanted the Tudor watch, and I didn't like my BMW when I had it, right?
Yeah.
And swords are not cheap, let me tell you. And
Yes.
turns out money allows you to do things. Confucius had, I don't remember how many disciples, but he had one disciple that like did very well in the market. And Confucius told them a virtuous person loves money. And they didn't understand that. And I don't know that I understand it well enough to explain it, but I think it means you can do things. And what are you going to accomplish without money in this world?
Right.
You want to start the Confucian Society, you're going to need money to do that, right? Rent is not...
Yeah. Well, it's thinking about, like money allows you to share your gifts with the world and make an impact, right? Instead of money makes you greedy. Obviously, there's many examples of people for whom money is not a good example of what happened, but that is not necessarily what needs to happen, right? Like you can have money and still be virtuous. I do believe that.
For sure.
But yeah, there's a lot of this. This has been a big theme around, right? And like abundance versus scarcity is something I've thought a lot about in the last few years. So I like that this relates back to that. They also talk about, this is all mindset stuff, right? Like freedom from versus freedom to. So freedom from is lack of obstacles. So meaning that you're quote unquote not a slave to something or someone, like objective and external. So like you live in a free place, versus freedom to is the presence of control, where you're in your own master, subjective and internal. So you have it if you feel free. I don't love like the master slave language here, but I get it. But being in the gap means you're trying to free yourself from something, while being in the game gives you freedom to.
Yeah, it's like when you're looking for a job. Are you trying to get away from something you don't like, or are you growing into yeah, that's for sure. I get that.
For sure, yeah. And are you doing it from a place of scarcity, or are you doing it from a place of abundance? So chapter 2, be self-determined. Define your own success criteria. So
we did that. It's on our fridge.
Yep. Well, we'll get into that.
Should I go get it? Can I read all of them? I don't think I can read all of them.
I don't think you can read all of them. I actually looked at it and included a few in here.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah. When we get to that part. Okay. But he talks about the example of the public education system being in the gap, right? Because it's all about reference points. So a reference point is a standard for evaluation and comparison. So in school, children are measured against the reference points of like national averages and test scores, right? So they're trained to measure themselves against external reference points chosen by other people. So if you think about what are the reference points that you measure yourself against and why did you choose them, like self-determination is making yourself the reference point rather than measuring yourself against something external.
He had a friend or somebody that he had a good list of things that how he measured himself. Mm-hmm. And one of them was like, I can work from anywhere.
Yeah, that gets into I
was like, that's a great, my income exceeds my desired lifestyle.
Yep, that's on ours.
That's on ours. We stole that.
We did, yes. But when you're making yourself the reference point, like you don't need to apologize for what you want, you're clear on why you want it, and you're no longer competing with anyone else. And
I mean, that is some hard truth right there.
Yeah.
And I think we're taught, I don't know, my generation at least, we were taught like, it's not okay to want things, or I don't know. There was like something like that, like a blue collar ethos that was a little bit pounded into us, just like work hard, you'll get ahead. And that didn't happen for Gen X, and we're sort of waking up to that in our 50s, like what our parents taught us wasn't good,
Yeah, I mean, that's something to think about even, as we're parenting is like raising, because it was always a thing, do you need this or do you want it? And wanting it, like, thinking about that and framing it differently.
I think it's okay to want things. I think we got to go back to like the ability to self-delay gratification is the actual path to success. Mm-hmm. But it's not a sin to want something.
Exactly. Yeah. Becoming self-determined, and this definition is really difficult in today's world. And they talk about that. Like the noise and distractions are relentless. Social media is largely designed to put people in the gap.
It is largely, I'm not beautiful enough. I'm rich enough.
1,000% true.
Yeah, there's so many shows about
whatever realm you have, or whatever part of your life you're in. I knew that before, but then becoming a mother and just the quantity of stuff on social media that is designed to make you feel like you're doing it wrong, whatever you're doing. Is mind-boggling, right?
I told you to stop looking at Instagram at some point. I'm like, you're going to drive yourself.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm guilty of it, but it's like all these moms telling you how to raise your kid.
Yeah, for sure.
Or even like developmentally, like our dude isn't rolling over that much. We've seen him do it. He just he's not super interested in it. And it's like...
Yeah, thanks to social media.
But it's like, you think about it, I don't know any 2-year-old that hasn't figured out how to like walk.
That's the thing,
like they figured out.
Yeah, I mean, he's making progress. He's just going at, babies do things in their own order of operations, right? And trying to remember that we've raised walking humans for forever without the presence of Instagram, like pediatric PTs on Instagram who want you to buy their course and are therefore telling you that you're doing it wrong. So,
I mean, I'm all for optimization.
Oh, for sure. There's a lot. That's the thing. There's a lot of valuable content, but there's also a lot of, you have to really be able to filter that out and not be put in the gap about it. And they define it like when you're in the gap, you're measuring yourself against external ideals or reference points that you didn't even necessarily consciously choose for yourself. Because social media is designed to subconsciously manipulate people's identity, desires, and behaviors. Mm-hmm. They remind you, like, if you're not paying for the product,
you're the product.
Are the product. Your behavior changes the product, right? So 90% of people use social media for the specific purpose of comparing themselves with others. And nearly 100% of those are upward social comparisons. So you're comparing yourself with those you perceive to be above or better than you. So instead, what they encourage you, and this is exactly what we talked about is on our fridge, to create your own success criteria by coming up with a list of answers to the prompt, I know I'm being successful when.
God, I gotta get back to this.
When we did this for our family, we did this over... This is over...
We were in Hawaii.
We were in Hawaii, yeah. I was not yet pregnant. I was not pregnant yet.
You were not pregnant.
We were still talking about...
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember where we were. We were at that very bougie hotel.
Yep.
Watching the sunset.
Yep. It was great. And yeah, we
That was a great hotel.
It's like
on the side of a cliff.
Yep. That is I think it's the One Hotel.
Yeah,
I could be making this up. In Kauai, like in Princeville area.
We didn't stay there. We just ate dinner there.
Yes. We had drinks there and ate dinner. Yeah. But we came up with this list and then we printed it out and keep it on our fridge. So some examples from ours are our income exceeds our desired lifestyle. We can travel often and wherever we want. We have fun together with lots of laughter. We prioritize experience over material possessions.
Yeah, some of mine were like, I remember, I should get back to this. Like, I'm learning something new. I'm making progress on something. Mm-hmm. I'm most happy when I'm learning to woodwork or learning to kettlebell or when now I'm learning to longsword. As long as I'm making some progress, I'm happy. It's when I get stagnant that get unhappy. Mm-hmm. So even doing like 10 minutes of like longsword stuff a day is like progress for me, especially even when I'm in a stressed out state but that's my definition of success.
Yeah.
Nobody gets to define success for you.
Exactly. Yeah. No, this is very powerful to do.
So powerful.
To do the I know I'm being successful when list.
I gotta find that. I gotta get back to that.
Yeah, right. I need to.
So bad at it.
And well, all of this is a process, right? We're not implementing it and doing it forever. We have to, it's a practices we keep.
He had something interesting. He's like, you gotta, we do wins every day. We'll talk about that, I'm sure. But then at some point I did a 10-year and 20-year progress report. Mm-hmm. And I was like, looked at where I was 20 years ago and honestly tried to evaluate myself. I was like, okay, there's some progress. Not as much as I want. There's the horizon, but yeah.
Yes.
So,
yeah. So yeah, also coming out of this is once you've done this, you can create filtering questions for yourself that you can use to help make decisions. So they gave some examples here. So is this, whatever it is, opportunity, person, experience, whatever, aligned with my values? If no, stop there. Mm-hmm. Like, will it take advantage of my unique ability and make me even stronger? Does it have a bigger cause or purpose that will benefit society? Does it make sense financially? Is this transactional or transformational? So is it a standalone opportunity or a gateway opportunity? And the ultimate coaching question, right? If I say yes to this opportunity, what must I say no to? So like creating your own list of these kind of filtering questions that you can use to make decisions, to decide whether to take a job, for example, or whatever else comes your way. And they give the example of the 2000 British rowing team who had not won a gold medal since 1912. And they just used a single filtering question for everything. Will it make the boat go faster? Mm-hmm. And they got their first gold medal in.
I mean, they really filtered everything through this. Should we go out on a Friday night and have a drink? Will it make the boat go faster?
Everything. That one question. Yep.
Genius.
Yep. So next, chapter 3, the compound effect of the gap or the gain. Train your brain to see gains. So they say that research...
Which is against biology, by the way.
Uh-huh. Well, this kind of gets into that, right? Research shows that optimistic people often live 10 or more years longer than pessimistic people. And there's a study...
Bullshit!
Sorry! And you talk about the field of epigenetics, which studies how behaviors, events, and environment cause changes in gene function, which is fascinating. And so much of an experience comes down to the meaning or framing that a person gives to it. So whether you're in the gap or the gain about something has a psychological and physical impact on you. They include the quote, "Comparison is the thief of joy," which is like one of the truest things I've ever heard. I use that a lot or come back to that a lot. And we have these like strong like cognitive biases that lead us to feeling like we deserve something specific. And it's like, quote, unfair that we don't have it which leads to obsessiveness and decisions that are not in our own best interest. But the antidote to an unhealthy need for fairness, like this entitlement, right? We see this everywhere. The antidote to that is gratitude. And people who are grateful don't overly obsess about fairness or other comparisons, and they can instead make smart, short-term economic decisions that put them ahead, even if the outcomes are unequal for everyone involved. So that means that being in the game doesn't mean you're a pushover or that you accept unfair treatment. It just means that you appreciate your gains and you don't get overly reactive or in the gap when the situation is not exactly how you feel it should be. So they give some tips for training yourself to be in the gain more. So calling yourself out when you catch yourself in the gap and then immediately look for and vocalize the gain. They tell 5 loved ones about the gap in the game and give them permission to call you out when you're in the gap. Help others see and appreciate their own gains more by asking them about their recent progress and pointing out their progress to them. Like, we do this for each other a lot. When you're in a difficult situation, asking like, what's the gain in this? Or how can we turn this into a gain? Are all things that you can do to help train your brain to do this. And then also this like idea of mental subtraction. So thinking about the absence of the good things in your life can help make you appreciate them more also. So like when you're in the gap about something, so like say you have an annoying situation at work, thinking about like, okay, what if you immediately lost whatever you went into the gap about? So not having that job at all, that can help you put yourself in the gain and really just put it into perspective, because when you're in that kind of situation, it can seem like the entire world until you go into gratitude about it. And then they also talk about, this goes back to what we've talked about with the coaching habit and some other ones, an implementation intention. So you're specifically planning for when things fall apart or go wrong and how you'll respond. So this is equivalent to when you're going on a diet, like pre-planning how you respond when you binge junk food. Doing this can increase your self-control even when you're in a bad environment and reduce decision fatigue. So going through knowing you're always going to go in the gap, like this is not, our brains are engineered to do this, right? So the goal is not to not go in the gap, it's to just get out of it as soon as you can. So identifying those like specific triggers for things that put you in the gap and outlining what you will do instead. So like after I feel discouraged, I will list 3 specific gains from the last 30 days, for example.
Identifying how I like that. After feeling discouraged, I will list 3 specific gains. Okay.
Well, and this can be like in things like if looking at your bank account is something that often puts you in the gap, like what are 3 things that you'll do when you have that trigger, like things like that. So
that's true, right? Like with your diet, like you can absolutely break your diet and eat like a pizza. But if you've programmed yourself, I'm going to allow that. I've been on a couple diets, right? I've lost 50 pounds like 3 times in my life. And I remember I did it once while I was working in a really delicious Chinese restaurant that had a buffet. So I'd show up at 10:30 and they'd be putting out all the food and I'd have lunch. And then I'd have lunch again at noon, and then I'd have dinner, and I could eat like egg rolls all the time. And I gained like 50 pounds. And I just, okay, I got to do it. And it was very hard not to like sometimes eat the unhealthier food on that buffet. And it was like, okay, that's going to happen. And maybe it's going to happen the second day. But if it happens 3 days in a row, you're not on your diet anymore. Now you've gone down a path that you have to backtrack from. It's absolutely okay to have a meal, and if you set your psychology, and I kind of did, I remember that. And I was like, I'm going to allow myself to like absolutely gorge on egg rolls tonight. But tomorrow I'm going to be back on my steamed vegetables and tofu diet. Mm-hmm. And I lost 50 pounds. But if you go you go 3 steps down the wrong path, now you have to fix it. So if you preset your psychology, it can have a way. It's like a habit change thing.
Yep. Yeah.
And there's a saying, it's a Chinese saying, it takes 3 years to be good, or to develop a good, it took 3 months to develop a good habit. It only takes 3 days to absolutely fall apart.
Yep.
And that's absolutely true.
Yeah. No, you have to go in knowing that you're never going to be perfect about stuff, right? And what are you going to do when you fail? So.
If your answer is, I'm going to eat another pizza, then you're going to get fat. That's not that there's anything wrong with that. I'm not body shaming anyone, but it's like, if you don't want that, then you have to develop habits.
Yep.
Healthy habits.
Yep. All right. So that brings us to part 2, get into the gain. So chapter 4, always measure backward, increase your hope and resilience. So intentional blindness is when you're so fixated on one thing that you fail to see everything else going on around you. And it's easy to miss the gains happening throughout our lives because we get tunnel vision on the problem in front of us. And our brains have actually evolved to forget our gains. As we learn, we quickly adapt to our new normal, even when that normal is very different from what our life used to be. So it's automaticity. We have talked about this before on the podcast.
My word, man.
I know.
Stealing my word.
Well, I mean.
I invented that word.
Okay.
Maybe. Who knows?
Sure.
You don't know.
I love you. Okay. So they talk about the conscious competence learning model, this is a really good way.
Yeah.
I hadn't seen this before. I really like it.
I liked it. Yeah.
So stage 1 is unconscious incompetence. So you don't know how to do something and you don't even recognize your ignorance. And then stage 2 is conscious incompetence. So you don't know how to do something, but you can see your lack of skills and the value in being able to do it. And then stage 3, conscious competence. So you now know a lot about the subject and you can reliably perform the tasks involved, but you have to concentrate on the task while doing it. And then stage 4 is unconscious competence. So you've practiced and performed the task so many times that it's become second nature. You can basically go on autopilot. So if you think of it, this is like the process of learning how to ride a bike. It's like in stage 1, you're like Jasper right now. You don't even know what a bike is. You don't know that this is something that you even want to do. And stage 2 is you see other kids riding the bike and you want to learn how to do it, but you don't know how. And then stage 3, you're in that learning process where you've learned the skills, but you still have to focus really hard. If you get distracted while you're riding a bike, you're going to go off course. And then finally, the classic, when people say it's like learning a bike, like learning to ride a bike where you don't forget. If you've reached that point where you're on autopilot and it's just like so deeply ingrained in your muscle memory. So when you reach the stage of conscious competence, you view the past as more of a reflection of where you currently are rather than of the past itself. And it's like our memories are living parts of ourselves in the present. They're influenced by our current moods and future goals, right? Like they're always going to be influenced by how we feel about our present. We're never going to look back on what happened in a completely objective way that's not influenced by who we are today. So without being conscious and unintentional, given this, and this is the way our brains work, you can easily lose sight of the gains you've already made. So that's why it's really important to do things like journal or conduct an annual review. So this is where you said, as an exercise they have in here, like thinking about where you were 10 years ago and then listing out some of your specific gains since then. Yeah,
I think when I did this, when I did the first time, it was like 10 years when I read this book. I was like...
You're like...
I was
kind of mind-blowing.
It was mind-blowing. I was working in the kitchen for $10 an hour in New York City. And now I'm the GM of a hotel. Okay. That there's like, I can't argue with that. There's some progress there. Yeah. It's not good enough, but it's like, all right, I really can't argue with that.
Yep. And they say when you're doing this, it can be any form of growth or progress. So it's easy to focus on the external ones like jobs, but also including experiences, lessons learned, relationships built, etc., and like being really specific about it. And then doing the same thing for the last 3 years, the last year, and then the last 90 days even.
Yeah.
And getting yourself in the habit of doing this.
Yeah. I mean, the day to day is the most important, I think. But the big ones can give you...
Well, it gives you like a reference, right? Because it's so easy to just be focused on like, oh, I'm not where I want to be. I'm not where I want to be. And then it's, no, look how far you've come.
Yeah.
But you have to do that intentionally because your brain will adapt to your current state and it's not going to do that for you. So unless you train it to do that.
Yeah.
So chapter 5, measure 3 wins daily, maximize the highest leverage hour of your day. So since Mike read this book originally, this is something, we've talked about this many times on the podcast, that we try to do. It's a practice that we are very imperfect at. But
we're not bad.
But we're not bad. But
better than we were 2 years ago.
And it's a gain right there.
Right there.
And anytime we do it, it's a gain, right? Even if we don't do it every day.
Frankie talked about that. Back to Frankie. He said, I didn't know what progress was until I read one of his ebooks. And it snapped my mind when he explained progress is more than before. More than before.
Mm-hmm.
So even so your goal this year is to go to the gym more, and all you did was set that goal. That goal is actually more goal than you had before. Mm-hmm. And maybe you still don't get to the gym the first week, but you wake up thinking about it. That's progress.
Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy to look at it that way, right? Because it's like easy to just beat yourself up about like, oh, I haven't done what I wanted to do. Yes. No, it's true. It is a total change to think about measuring against where you started versus where you
and I think we see
ideal is.
Really successful people. They tune out the noise.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Yeah. So 3 wins daily. So they talk about the last waking hour of your day has the biggest impact on your short-term and long-term success, because when you're sleeping, your brain processes everything you experience that day, but not equally. So what you do in the last hour of the day is going to be more heavily weighted in what your brain is processing from the day. So they talk a lot about not being on your phone before bed, which I'm like,
yeah, right.
Like, okay.
Yeah,
well, right. You know, there's ideal and there's reality. Okay. But yes. But what they do recommend doing is an hour or so before you go to bed, write down 3 wins from the day, and then write down the 3 wins you would like to accomplish the next day. Just 3, and focusing on like important, not urgent items. Mm-hmm. We've talked about the
Eisenhower matrix, importance versus urgency. And just doing this practice boosts gratitude and confidence. It directs your subconscious while you sleep. It gives you a purpose for the next day. And it helps retrain your brain to see the gains instead of the gap. And then after doing this, share them with a success partner is what they recommend. What we do as a couple, our version of this practice is it's not necessarily the last hour of the day, but it's towards the end of the day. It's whenever we can muster the
whenever
energy.
We remember to, one of us remembers to do it.
Or the other one's in a particularly funky state, and someone will go, "What are your wins today?" And I want to fucking.
But we have a rule around it, right, where you're not allowed to be like, no.
It's very hard to say no because it's so reasonable, and you know it's like.
So the other person will try to do it when you really don't want to do it. Both of us do this to each other. But when you don't want to do it, it's usually when you need it most. So that's what we've found. And we just do this verbally, and we just take turns. And
I tried writing it down for a while. It was actually helpful. We should maybe write it down.
I think it is really impactful to write things down, but it's also a matter of like, do what you can do. Like doing it in any form is better than not doing it at all. And I really like saying them out loud to each other because there's accountability kind of built in there. And there's it's by sharing it with another person, it makes it like more real. So you can also write it. I'm sure writing it down is very powerful.
I had the grid diary. I should get back to that.
I mean, yeah. But just remember, because I do this with things, I'm like, I go through like, this is an ADHD thing, but it's like when they say people with ADHD just all have a graveyard of planners with like 3 pages filled in. I have mine.
I heard that.
But I've gone through so many things where I'm like, oh, I need the perfect journal to do this in. And it's like, no, just anything, any form you can do this in is better than not doing it. So whatever works for you. But we've been doing this for a couple years now, and and every time we get away from doing it for a while,
we know we have to do it.
We know we have to do it.
We need
it's so
to do
impactful.
This. Yeah, we got to raise our son without all of our baggage.
Yeah, that's the goal.
It's a good goal.
But yeah, and this is something I think as he gets older, we'll adapt this with our family and so forth. So I strongly recommend doing whatever variation of this works for you. That's been the single most biggest thing from this book for us, for sure. And it's been one of the most impactful things.
It's so impactful
in our lives.
I should really go back to the grid diary because I think that was really helpful. And I would just catch myself. I'd be like, oh, that's actually a win. You know, I would drive to work without checking my phone for anyone calling or any I'd always sit there at the light, check my email. Sometimes when I had like a 90-minute drive.
Yeah.
And I would be like, that's a win. I got there and I didn't worry about what I was just focused on whatever book I was listening to or just I don't know about enjoying the drive, but enjoying the drive. And it was like, that's a real win. You start to reinforce yourself.
For sure. And it really helps to do this on the days where you just feel it was one of those days where you just feel like everything was terrible. Like just forcing yourself to come up with 3 wins. And we always are like, nope, you had to come up with 3.
Fuck.
You got to make it to 3. It can be, even if it's hard, like just doing that really makes a huge impact.
It does. Yeah, it does.
Yeah, I cannot recommend this enough.
I can't recommend this enough.
So chapter 6, which is the last one, is transform every experience into a gain. Take ownership of your past. So they say when you're in the gain, you're proactive about your experiences. You look at your experiences and utilize them to become more adaptive and successful in your future. And when you're in the gap, you're reactive. So you look at your experiences and you get frustrated over what happened, framing them as negative. And when you're in the gain, you become more psychologically flexible. So you're better able to manage your emotions rather than them managing you. And you can move forward towards your goals even when setbacks occur. You also have more pathways thinking, which is the ability to create many workable paths to a given outcome. So they had this experience transformer exercise, which is pretty straightforward. So it's like thinking about any specific experience, positive or negative, asking yourself, like, what about this experience worked? What usefulness can you get from this experience to improve your future? What can you learn from this experience about what you don't want? Knowing what you know now because you've had this experience, how will you approach your future differently? And what about this experience are you grateful for? Which is...
Sure.
Yeah.
Straightforward, but yeah.
But useful.
Definitely useful.
And when you're in the gain, you can transform your experiences and take ownership of them. Whereas in the gap, you compare your experiences to other people's and end up feeling worse off as a result. And then they talk about organizing your past. So when you have a disorganized past, you don't really understand your emotions or thoughts, even though they're still impacting you. Often described as trauma. They say that trauma occurs when a person is avoiding or resenting their past rather than approaching and transforming their past. And post-traumatic growth occurs as you proactively find benefits from former hardships. You actively frame tragedies or challenges in a way that gives you greater strength and empowerment than you had before the experience. When you don't transform your experiences into growth and purposes, but instead avoid your experiences in the gap, you experience intrusive rumination, which is where uncomfortable thoughts and emotions randomly hit you, triggering the painful emotions of the past. And being in the gain makes you anti-fragile, which is beyond resilience or robustness. The resilient resists shocks and stays the same, while the anti-fragile gets better.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And then, the conclusion, life, liberty, and the expansion of happiness is that basically Jefferson wasn't wrong in having ideals, but he was wrong in measuring his happiness against his ideals. So the question to ask yourself now is, how far will I go?
Cool. Well, Kristen, are we to the life-changing experiences? Or what didn't resonate?
What didn't resonate for you?
What didn't resonate? He's drastically oversimplifying trauma.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's not 100% wrong, but he's 100% wrong in how easily he is making out transforming really traumatic experiences into positive ones.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's mine.
For sure. And those things we're seeing, like, what is it? The body keeps the score. There's just a whole science to that. And like a clumsy chapter, sorry, Dr. Hardy I get what he's coming, but it's not right.
Yeah.
It's not right.
I mean, I do think like the experience transformer thing, that is useful for a lot of experiences if you're talking about a specific situation or something. But that is not, I actually think it's like irresponsible.
It's almost irresponsible
to not recommend that. Like that does not apply to everything that ever happened to you. And especially when you're talking about dealing with like deeply traumatic experiences, like a journal entry is not going to work for processing.
No, find a trauma-informed therapist, please.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, I think it's irresponsible to not recommend it anywhere in this, that people, if you have more.
Well, Dr. Hardy, I mean, I like his stuff. Is he a Mormon? Yes. He has strong ties to Mormonism. And I'm not judging that, but it definitely informs and colors his approach to things. And
yeah. So we will say, do not read this as if, I can resolve everything by journaling. Like,
I mean, he is a psychologist.
But he's an organizational
He's an organization. That's not the same as like a trauma therapist.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's a little reductive, sir.
Yeah, no, and I think it's like a little irresponsible to not add that caveat in, especially since this was written 5 years ago, not even.
Let's also keep in mind, we haven't talked about it a lot. Dan Sullivan I listened to this book and it's them talking. Dan is an amazing dude. Like this guy has just like decades and decades of wisdom. And he grew up on some poor farm somewhere with 11 siblings or something. And very young figured out how to like make progress on himself. And he's the one that developed these techniques. He's the one that developed this approach based on decades of working with thousands and thousands of people. So take that as you will. I honestly, I feel like it's irresponsible a little bit.
It just needed that. It just needed a couple paragraphs.
It just needed a line saying this is not good. And for sure, like we know many trauma survivors that somehow process their experience and it does become a strength. And they eventually will say things like, that it was horrible, but it made me who I am today.
Yeah.
But it didn't happen with the technique that Dr. Benjamin is on page.
Yeah, that experienced informer, that seems great for like a situation at work.
Sure, I lost my job.
Right? Yeah, or but if you're talking about especially childhood stuff, please see a specialist. Yeah. A trauma specialist, a trauma-informed mental health practitioner.
And even I've been with many different therapists. Only one of them really understood trauma. And that's its own thing.
Yeah.
And just doing CBT for a while will help. Did not get to the root of it.
Yes.
So find someone who understands like actual trauma therapy or somatic work.
Yeah.
There's a lot of different approaches. But if you're not digging out the root, you're not dealing with it.
Yeah.
So,
exactly.
Sorry. That's okay.
Yeah.
So is that your same didn't resonate?
That was my didn't resonate.
I'll be honest, I don't love the experience transformer either. I think you change your mind, you change your mindset, you'll experience things differently.
Yeah, I find some value in that. That's like journaling out like an experience that's bothering you, journaling it out and reframing it. It's like kind of a different version of that.
Yeah, that's CBT.
Yeah, or like similar. There's different ways to approach it, but
CBT.
I don't have any problems with that. I think it's just...
No, I don't have a moral problem with that or something.
I think it's just oversimplified as to like you can use this to turn any experience into a...
I don't know. I'm not here to judge this man. I don't know what he's been through in his life, but if he'd been through really, truly traumatic events, he's either covering them up or he hasn't experienced them. Because people who have true PTSD or complex post-traumatic stress disorder, there's a different vibe that they're putting out.
Yeah.
Yeah. The consequence and the result and the aftermath of real trauma is stark, harsh, heartbreaking, painful, decades long, life-changing, personality altering. It is so, I don't know the word I'm looking for. It is so catastrophic to life, to a person, that this chapter really does a disservice to how strong of a result, that you get.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
So I think this is a very important thing for us to say. And I kept waiting to see some kind of like line or something about, and there was nothing in there. So I think for
everything else is good.
Everything else is great. But yeah, for being written in 2021, it was like, okay, guys, you gotta. Yeah. But overall, I think it's
fantastic book. Fantastic book. Yeah.
Yep.
But needed to be said.
So what was your most life-changing takeaway from this book?
The whole book, the whole like horizon thing, and measuring yourself from where you've come rather than where you want to go. Yeah. If you do that, you will, and if you do that honestly if I do that honestly with myself, I'm happy. I feel very satisfied in my life. Even though I still see the horizon.
For sure.
You, Kristen?
Yeah, I mean, I think similar the overall that concept, but also just like the 3 daily wins. I think
it's a great practice.
I've just seen the impact it's had for us when we do it, and it's so impactful. So, and like the worse the day, the more the impact. Honestly. So yeah. Awesome.
All right. Well, doing this was a win.
Absolutely.
It's a win that it's not easy
It's a huge win.
It's not easy to do this when you're a child. Okay.
No, but we really care about this podcast. So
we do.
Our episodes might be sporadic for a while. We're here.
We're going.
We're still showing up.
We will not quit.
Yep.
We will not quit.
All right.
Thanks, everybody.
Well, thank you for listening. Hope you guys enjoyed this LBC. And we'll see you next time.
Bye.
The Love and Leadership Podcast is produced and co-hosted by me, Kristen Brunn-Sharkey, and co-hosted by Mike Sharkey. Please rate and review us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever else you get your podcasts. We can't stress enough just how much these reviews help. You can follow us on LinkedIn under Kristen Brunn-Sharkey and Michael Sharkey, and on Instagram as Love Leader Pod. You can also find more information on our website, loveandleadershippod.com. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you again next week.